This seminar on governance and development was held at the Ismaili Centre in central London. It began with a comparison of the political similarities between Iran and Turkey, two Muslim-majority states which on the surface seemed quite different, by Mohammed Ayub, Professor of International Relations at Michigan State University in the USA.
It's commonly assumed that these two major Muslim countries in the Muslim world or in the Middle East fall at two ends of a continuum between secularism on the one hand and theocracy on the other, and democracy on the one hand and authoritarianism on the other. And I was trying to debunk that myth, not really debunk that myth, but to introduce complexities into that analysis, that if you go in and compare the two, the situation is much more complex and complicated than it appears at first sight. That while Turkey is secular and democratic, at the same time there are authoritarian elements within the Turkish political system, particularly the military, that try to oversee the elected representatives, and also that there is increasing contestation on the issue of the place of religion in the public sphere in Turkey. And on the other hand, while Iran is assumed to be an authoritarian regime, it's highly factionalized. There are cross-cutting cleavages among various political and economic factions contesting for power, that there are simultaneously representative institutions and clerical institutions present, that the constitution has very democratic elements within it, as it has sort of these Islamic clerical elements. So again, to demonstrate that things are much too complex and complicated.
Speaking about the controversial China development model, Professor Clement Henry said that models have to reflect the social and political realities of their geographical location.
The China model is basically the old East Asian development state, repackaged given the growing presence of China in the Middle East and North Africa. Partly for strategic reasons, maybe mainly for strategic reasons, looking for oil and other important resources. But the result has been a big presence, and the question, I guess, has been, has that impressed some of your local authoritarian regimes that want to see a painless way of keeping their authority while developing? That was the original question, or one of the questions raised by the conference. But the trouble with that being any sort of official model is that most of these countries also at least claim to give lip service to democracy. There are very few that, like Syria, would actually admit to kind of admiration for this Chinese pattern of development. The Tunisians, who are equally repressive, still legitimate themselves by arguing, hey, we're building democracy. It may take us 100 or 200 years, just as it took you 200 years, but, we're building it. So they would not go for any sort of Chinese formula, except maybe privately comparing notes on how one controls internet and other things of that sort.
The seminar is part of a year-long celebration of events marking the golden jubilee of the Aga Khan succession to the Islamic hereditary title of the Imam of the Nizari Muslims. The Aga Khan Development Network is engaged in improving the living conditions and opportunities for people in some of the poorest parts of the developing world.